Hey guys, I'm Jasper from the Uberclockers, and welcome to Top 6 Tips for Building a Budget Gaming Rig. So I made this video because, well, a lot of you, including me, don't want to spend like thousands of dollars on a gaming PC, or you don't have that kind of money, like me, to spend on a gaming PC, you know? So this should help you get the most bang for your buck when you are building a budget gaming rig. I hope you guys enjoy the video, and remember to like and subscribe. Okay, tip number one. Actually, before we start, the footage, the Battlefront footage here, it's from the beta, and this was the first day of the beta when I recorded this, and the servers on Drop Zone at least were pretty bad. So I apologize about the quality and all the weird stutter stuff with the game, but I had to make do with what footage I had, and this was really the only footage that I had long enough. Anyways, so tip number one. Tip number one, salvage old parts. It's pretty self-explanatory, but if you need an explanation, if you have like old PC parts lying around, maybe a few hard drives like I have, well, they're not technically mine, but I'm thinking of using them soon. Salvage old parts. If you have an old PC, use the case or something. If the power supply is still good, I wouldn't necessarily recommend using an ancient power supply, but if it's new enough, maybe it can work. That way you can save a lot of money on a gaming rig when you build a gaming rig. Maybe you have a PC with a decent processor, like a pre-built PC, and you just want to stick like a decent graphics card in it, and that will save you tons of money on a gaming rig and allow you to get the best performance you can for the money you have. Okay, so tip number two, save money for games. Okay, this really isn't part of building a budget gaming rig, but you can have the fastest gaming rig in the world. 8 million Titan X's and SLI and, 5 Core i7 5960X's or something, if that's even a thing. But you can have that kind of hardware, but if you don't have games to play on it, there's no reason to have that hardware. So just save money for games, If you have $60 left over, yeah, spend it on Battlefront. If you don't, take out a chunk of your budget to spend on games. Okay, well, that's tip number two. Let's move on to tip number three. Okay, so tip number three, look at benchmarks. Okay. You might have a preference, AMD or NVIDIA when you're building your gaming rig, but if you're building on a budget, really, just get whichever part gives you the most bang for your buck and does what you need it to do. Like, if you have an R9 390, for example, the PCS Plus R9 390 used to be $270 some dollars. There was a mail-in rebate on Newegg, and that R9 390 is a great card. I use it personally, and really there's no point in spending a lot of money on a more expensive 390 or like a GTX 970 if you can just get the same or better performance from something that is cheaper. So look at benchmarks. Look at benchmarks. See what performs better, and based on price, and basically, yeah, look at benchmark. Okay, so tip number four, get last gen hardware. Well, not necessarily last gen. This is kind of a weird tip because, of course you want the newest everything, you want the newest GTX 5 million something X Titan SLI configuration thing, but you can't always afford that, and sometimes, like, last gen hardware will actually have more bang for your buck than current gen hardware, actually, most of the time, because when there's a new release, say like the new R300 series from AMD, if you're building on a budget, maybe look at the R200 series and see if there's a card there that performs as well as you need it to, but for a cheaper price than the newer hardware. So that was tip number four, get last gen hardware. Okay, so this is tip number five, and it's kind of two tips in one. It's know what to spend less money on, and know what to spend more money on. So when you're building a gaming rig, you want to spend more money on the GPU. The GPU is really important when you're building a gaming rig, and not so much the CPU. I have a friend who spent, like, you know, a whole lot of money on a 6600K for his build, but the graphics card he got was a 750 Ti. And he actually noticed that apparently his Intel integrated graphics did better than the 750 Ti, but like, know what to spend less money on. Don't spend too much money on a processor. Spend more money on a graphics card or something, you know? Don't spend so much money on a case. Well, that was tip number 5. Okay, so this is tip number 6, final tip. And it is get a mechanical hard drive. Just, if you're building on a budget, forget SSDs. Like, you're not going to be able to afford an SSD if you're building on a budget. So just get a hard drive. You know, hard drives are great. They have tons of storage, and some hard drives like the Western Digital Caviar Blue 1 terabyte, 7200 RPM, you know, that thing, they perform pretty well for a hard drive, and they're only $50 for like a terabyte of storage, so get a hard drive. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. See you guys later.